Hello everybody and welcome to today's questions and answers with Magdalena. In case you're new to the community, my name is Magdalena Wszelaki. I'm the founder of Hormones Balance. I'm a nutritional expert and I work with women specifically with hormonal issues. And so today's call is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to be doing, you can see probably I'm in the kitchen, so I'm going to be doing a bit of a cooking demo. Very improvised. I put it together very at the last minute. And I'm also going to be playing around a little bit with my camera because my camera has the ability of zooming into like a space like this. So I'm doing this for the first time and I'm doing it alone. I do not have a producer with me. So just bear with me just in case things don't work out. But you should still see what I'm doing here on the cutting board. So I promised that we're going to be talking about hot flashes today, right? Because they are quite a problem for a lot of women with hormonal issues, and especially when you're going into the menopause space. And somehow we have quite a lot of women following us in the space here who are going either through perimenopause or menopause. And by the way, I think an interesting point to this is that you do not have to be like 50 and above to be going into menopause or perimenopause. It really yes, there is a majority of us who are probably going in there like the age 50, 55 and above, but it doesn't have to be that way. I know a lot of women who go into perimenopause already in the age of 43, which is my age, even for 45, so much earlier than predicted. And sometimes it's genetic and sometimes it's also lifestyle choices, and they can speed up the bringing upon the menopause. One thing I want to tell you about that I think is really important to touch on is there was a discussion on the Facebook forum on Hormones Balance, the fan page you're probably on right now watching this video, that says, you know, hot flashes are a natural thing. And so I want to just clarify this because I think it's an interesting point of view that something is natural. I think aging is natural. You know, our estrogen levels going down is absolutely natural. We should not be, you know, doing too much to prevent it from happening. But hot flashes are not natural, okay? And in fact, hot flashes tell you there is some kind of an imbalance that's going on that's making you feel this way. And we're going to talk about this today. So I just want to make this clear. Estrogen levels dropping when you're going into perimenopause. Perimenopause, you're like all over the place, right? It's high, it's down, it's low, like you know, it's you got your period 1 month and then another month you get it twice a month. You get monthly, you get spotting in the middle of your cycle, your cycle going crazy. Welcome to perimenopause. With menopause is obviously different, right? That's when you do not have your cycles, and if you enter that space when you do not have your period for a year. So I want to share with you, before I go into the cooking demo, and I can see there's more of you coming on. So just by the way, just introduce yourself. My screen is right there, so I'm going to be looking at that. Introduce yourself, tell me where you're from, and I got questions printed out from last week, so I'm going to answer them as well. So, you know, sometimes questions come on my screen and I'm not able to see them right away. And so that's why what I do is my assistant gets them for me. I print them out and I can tell you about, I can answer the questions the following week. So last week we talked about seaweed and Brussels sprouts as being incredibly healing and having all these wonderful properties. And so today I want to talk about, hey Chris from Denver, Colorado. So we are just very close by because I'm in Boulder, Colorado. I was in Denver yesterday. I discovered how wonderful it is over there. Really great place. Hey Margot from Oregon, I think I know you. So yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about an interesting interview that I heard, and the interview was about some of the symptoms of menopause. And interestingly, this particular doctor is very integrative. Hi, Lori from San Juan Islands in Washington. Oh, all these beautiful places are dialing in today. What are you guys doing on Facebook? You should be out there. Hi, Stacy from Oregon. She says she loves the videos. Thank you. So I was actually listening to this podcast, and this lady who is a doctor, who actually teaches integrative medicine, was talking about how she would always develop hot flashes at 11 a.m. every day regularly. And she says, I have my smoothie, and then I would go to work, and at 11 o'clock sharp, I've got my hot flash coming on. So what she discovered is that in order to mitigate the hot flashes from happening, quarter to 11, she would have a bunch of nuts, right, like almonds, obviously full of protein and fiber and fat, and guess what? And then the hot flashes wouldn't come. And so I think that's a really smart idea to do that, and it kind of tells you one thing, that it is the dropping sugar levels a lot of the time that can bring upon hot flashes. So it's your sugar levels plummeting, and that's where hot flashes will occur much easier, much quicker than a woman who doesn't have estrogen levels already going down. So for example, like myself, I'm not in that space yet. My estrogen levels are pretty good. I don't get hot flashes if I do have a sugar spike. It happens very seldom, but when I do, I don't suffer from that. When your estrogen levels are beginning to go down, you're much more susceptible to further drops when your sugar levels go up. So I don't know if you've picked up on it, but the thing that came up for me very strongly from that podcast is that I'm thinking to myself, what are you eating for breakfast that makes you have those sugar drops in the first place? And then, of course, as the interview is going on, she says, you know, I have my smoothie with the banana and the berries, and I put honey in there and collagen and all the good stuff. And if you think about it, that's all sugar, right? Banana, very high in sugar, berries, somewhat high in sugar. I don't know what else she's putting in there, but it felt like, you know, you can mitigate all of that by changing your breakfast to, some of you might have heard me talk about this. If you know what PFF breakfast is, then let me know. PFF breakfast. Some of you who've been following me for a while, you know what that is. PFF stands for protein, fat, and fiber. And I want to show you some breakfast here today. I'm going to be improvising that in my kitchen today, just to show you what kind of breakfast can you have so you do not have those hot flashes happening. And in fact, you know, it's not just about hot flashes. The community of women who've been following me for a while, when I have this online cooking program called Cooking for Balance. When women go through that program, they'll say the biggest needle mover for me. Hi there, who is this? Jude Lynn. Yeah, we're happy to have you here too, Jude. And you know, they say is really the breakfast they made one of the biggest differences. And other things would be things like cutting down on sugar, doing the seed rotation. Those are some of the tools that you can utilize, and I talked about them in other calls. So I want to invite you to what I call the hot flash experiment, right? So it's a little bit like a challenge, but I don't like the word challenge so much, because like, what's the challenge about? It's a little experiment, you know? It can go wrong. The worst thing that can happen is that you still get your hot flashes. But I can tell you from experience that if you do make a couple of those changes I want to suggest today, you will start feeling different. And it might help you change a lot of the symptoms, or get rid of a lot of symptoms, not just the hot flashes, but also a lot of other things like anxiety going down. You might feel much more grounded, much happier and energized throughout the day. Don't need coffee so much to pick you up and have that boost of energy and sharpness of mind. And guess what? A different breakfast can also make you actually sleep better, believe it or not, which kind of goes back again to those very stabilized sugar levels where they don't go up and down. Now, you might also ask, hey Magdalena, so what's the big deal about changing food? I might as well do things like, for example, black cohosh is great on mitigating hot flashes. True, and I'm saying, you know, if black cohosh is your thing, is herbs is what you want to do, that's great. I have no problem with that. My only challenge to you that I want to pose is that somebody's asking, I can't really see your name, Deborah is asking about seed rotation. Hey Deborah, so go to my website, hormonesbalance.com, and there's a little search button on the right side, enter seed rotation, and then there was going to be an article that explains exactly how to do it. I've covered it in the previous episodes, previous Q&A, so I don't want to repeat this now. So, you know, I was just saying that my challenge with just relying on herbs that help you mitigate those symptoms is that, like I said, you're mitigating the symptoms. Hi there from VT, I think is it Virginia? I'm not sure. So, you know, is that you're mitigating a symptom. You're not addressing the underlying cause of what's causing that symptom. So, you know, things like black cohosh is mitigating the symptom. It doesn't rebalance your sugar levels by any means. It just wipes out the symptoms. So it's a little bit like using medications, but instead of doing meds, you're doing herbs. And the problem is when you do not stabilize your sugar levels, what's going to happen then is that they might manifest in many other ways. Number one, you would exhausting your adrenals when you have these constant sugar imbalances going on. Number two, it just shows it's super stressful, right? And and number two is a lot of people with depression and anxiety have that happening. Hi there from Clarksville, Georgia. Oh, Georgia, that's Susan. Welcome to the call. I'm talking about the hot flashes. So let me, that's basically my point of view on this, is that address the root cause of a problem, not just a problem with herbs or supplements or worse yet, medications, right? So how would you guys feel about me sharing with you some breakfast ideas? I actually haven't had my breakfast yet because I was waiting for doing this today with you, so that I saved some food, and I want to just show you what a great breakfast can do, or what it can look like, how simple it is to put it together. Because it's really, I'm not gonna do much cooking today. I'm just gonna put things together, and that can help you with rebalancing sugar levels so you do not have those hot flashes. So who here is gonna be down for the hot flash experiment? Just either do thumbs up or just put there in. So the first thing I want to show you, and I'm gonna do a little transition of the camera and see whether this is gonna work. I'm gonna zoom in on the board itself, so let's see if that works. Okay, I hope you guys can see. Can you guys confirm you can see my hand on the board right now? And this is the first time I'm doing this transition, so I just want to make sure that this is working. I'm gonna come out of it and can't see. Yes, okay, great. You guys can see it. Perfect. Yay! Sometimes with technology it can be tricky. So awesome. So I want to show you what you're seeing on the plate here right now is a piece of salmon, is a wild salmon I particularly like to use. So I just want to forewarn you first. This is going to be a little bit of a refrain for you, because I'm going to be showing you stuff that's like dinner food for breakfast, which might be a big change for some of you, but I want you just to stay with me and so we can talk a little bit more about that. So this is a wild-caught salmon that I got from a fishmonger. And here I have, those broccoli sprouts. Sorry, Brussels sprouts. I get these two confused. I had them made, this is from 2 nights ago for dinner. And basically what I'm doing is, I roasted them with some rosemary, put a lot of duck fat, because I love duck fat. And then these little brown things here that you see, these are pears. And so I just chopped up some pears and I roasted them with the broccoli sprouts, Brussels sprouts, sorry, for about 40 minutes until they become really, really soft, right? And then I have this piece of salmon that's just your wonderful source of protein and fats. And then what I'm going to show you is with this, I feel like, the thing I'm going to try, I always like to have some kind of a ferment. So the ferment that I'm using here, it's called Mother-in-Law Kimchi. This is, this is a specific, I think, brand that is available here in Boulder. But when you go to Whole Foods or any health store, you'll find a lot of different types of kimchis. The one kimchi you do not want to, this is made with daikon. The one thing you do not, you want to check for is make sure there is no MSG in the product, because unfortunately a lot of the Asian foods do contain MSG, which is a real bummer, but that's what it is. So so what I would then do is put some kimchi on the side. I like a lot of ferments. So daikon is basically a form of a radish, right? So really wonderful food. And can I just tell you that, with this kind of breakfast, you've got look at the abundance of vegetables on this plate, right? I mean, can you see, right, like how many vegetables we've got here? It's really about 70% of the plate is vegetables. And both of them are cruciferous vegetables that somebody's saying, I have an allergy to salmon. Okay, well, use a different fish. Codfish is wonderful. Trout is great, right? Just be creative. It doesn't have to be this exact combination. I'm just showing you examples. You know, and then daikon is a cruciferous vegetable. I talked about crucifers on the previous FAQs and how amazing they can be in terms of, I'm gonna do this, and I think you can see me now, right? Okay. So yeah, so you know, so this is one example of a breakfast, and I would have that pretty much every day. That's my go-to breakfast because it makes me feel incredibly good. You know, it's something that just makes me feel really energized, and so you know, those cruciferous vegetables, not only are they wonderful for the helping you detoxify your liver, but also they help to detoxify you from the aggressive estrogen called estradiol, and move the balance towards the protective estrogens, right? So really, really helpful. So that's one example that I want to show you. The other one, and you know, like it's up to you whether whether you put it in microwave and microwave it for you know however long. I personally don't use microwave because I grew up without one, so it's a little like I just don't like using them. So I just warm it up on a pan, not a big deal. Another example, and I wanted to show you of a breakfast that I think I'm gonna have that today because I just feel more like meat rather than fish. So I want to show you. I bought these lamb chops from Whole Foods. And so this is grass-fed local lamb, and so I'm gonna cook that shortly. And right after I finish the call, I'm gonna just keeping it really, really simple in terms of all I'm gonna do is just put it in a hot pan with some brown butter. So are you guys familiar with brown butter? This is my favorite, absolute favorite bread. It's called Tin Star. You can get it on Thrive Market. I'll put a link up to that. And what's cool about it is that even though it's called butter, there is no dairy in it. There's no casein, there's no lactose whatsoever. So, and the reason why it's called brown butter is because it's butter that's been melted, right? And then caramelized, and then the dairy deposits that have been removed from it, from the bottom and from the top. And what's left is just the fat. So it's actually ghee. Ghee, right? And wonderful for sautéing, for frying food. And so what I will do with mine is that somebody's saying that the wild salmon is expensive. Yeah, so you know, it doesn't have to be everyday's food. What you can do is have it as a once in a while kind of a thing. And you know, I have to say one thing. As a non-American, one of the things that drives me a little bit crazy, I think, is that everybody here complains about how expensive organic food is. Let me tell you, food in America is way cheaper than anywhere else in the world. You know, if somebody's used to eating pizza slices for $1, then suddenly paying for salmon or paying a farmer for organic food might seem to be expensive. But if you look at it from a perspective of your overall health and what would it cost to be dealing with things like breast cancer, I was just talking to my friend whose mother just finished her whole last set of treatments since we are on breast cancer this month, right? I talked about it through the past last 3 calls. You know, she spent over $100,000 on all the modalities in order to deal with her breast cancer. And this was also in a recurring cancer, right? So what is expensive? You know, it's up, I mean, I'll leave it up to you. So back to this butter, this is something that I will use for sauteing this lamb chop. And one thing I want to show you, which is really, I'm not making anything fancy with it, it's just gonna be a lamb chop and nothing else. But the one thing that makes a big difference is if you use something like, for example, truffle salt, right? So can you see these little black particles right in there, right? And these are pieces of truffle. And so truffle is not everybody's favorite, I have to say. But you know, I personally love it, and so having that as a you know, just sprinkling that and then frying the meat. Really, the lamb chop, all it needs is about 5 minutes on one side, 3 minutes on the other side, and it's done. So less than 10 minutes, and your steak is done, sautéed in that great ghee. And by the way, this, you know, brown butter is one of the secret ingredients that are used in French cuisine. Duck fat and brown butter is one of the 2 gorgeous fats, amazing fats that is used in French cooking. So whenever you go, if you know, if your partner has ever treated you to a French restaurant, you go like, oh my God, it was like the best meal of my life, right? Or you've been to Paris and you know how amazing food is there. That's part of the reason why it's so good, is things like that. So what else would I have with that? And so, you know, I would have a salad of a bunch of arugula, and I don't have a lot left, so I will typically have like 3 times more than that. Let me zoom into the plate again, just for the fun of it, and there we go. Okay, you should be able to see my counter right now. So this will go with the, you know, with the truffle, so like I said, and I want to show you a really creative way of incorporating seaweed into your diet is by adding that into sauerkraut. So this particular sauerkraut, I've purchased it, but there's nothing stopping you from making it yourself. It's basically your traditional way of making sauerkraut, right? Which is really, really simple. You're talking about, somebody's asking about the brine. I think it's called white brine. Let me put this, which way, this way. Wild brine, that's the brand that I'm using here. So, you know, I love sauerkraut, so I'll have a bunch of it, like typically about a cup of sauerkraut on my plate. And this particular seaweed that's used in here, it's arame, right? So that's one of the seaweeds that we talked about, I was showing you in last week's call. So, and then what I'll do is sprinkle some olive oil on the arugula. And, you know, once the steak is ready, have the steak here on top, right? And that's, you know, that's pretty much it, you guys. I mean, isn't that really simple? And I can tell you that this kind of breakfast is going to make all the difference in how you feel during the day. So who here is going to try a PFF kind of breakfast as part of your hot flash experiment? I'm curious. Let me know. So let me put this aside for now. And the next thing I want to show you is, let's talk about more things that you can do to address your hot flashes. So actually, somebody says yes, that was Chris. Hi Chris Bradley, thank you for joining the experiment. So this is the deal, you guys. So the experiment is about checking in next week and you reporting on how do you feel, how different was that for you when you did this kind of breakfast versus a smoothie that's got a lot of carbohydrates in it. I'm not saying, somebody's saying, so Cammie's saying, I need to. So Cammie, do you need to or do you want to? Languaging, really important how we have a conversation with ourselves. So if that's okay with you, then tell yourself you really, really, really want to try this. That might feel a little bit lighter energetically too. So yeah, so hey you guys, so this is the deal. Why don't you, for those of you who want to try it, do so over the next few days and just report back and tell me how you feel. You know, sometimes I get questions, hey, what about things like oatmeal? You know, we've had oatmeal for years, and I get that. It's just that I think we have become so unbalanced in our bodies that sometimes changing things around really would help. I love oatmeal, don't get me wrong. Oatmeal is wonderful, but it's all carbohydrates. There is fiber in it, yes. If you're using, not quick oats, if you're using steel cut oats, there is a good amount of fiber, but there's no protein in there. And there is, you know, and there's no fat unless you add some in there, right? Yes to PFF breakfast, says Stacy. Awesome. So that's why I wanna encourage you to change your way of doing things a little bit. And the same thing goes with smoothies. A lot of times people ask me about protein powders and shakes. I am not a fan at all. And I have to tell you that when I used to do one-on-one consults with women, I would get women off those protein powders and shakes. And that's when they start feeling so much better right after that. So, you know, and I wrote a whole article about what's wrong with protein powders, and if I remember it, I will post that on the link about this video as well. So who can guess what else can you do to manage your hot flashes better? You know how I talked about to help with blood sugar? Yeah, great Chris, I'm glad you're gonna try it. So who here can guess what else can you do to help yourself when it comes to hot flashes, apart from changing your breakfast, there's one more thing I want to suggest to you. Might be a bit of a tough one, but who can guess what else? I already implied the sugar levels. So I mean, obviously, you know, reducing your sugar level, your sugar intake throughout the day might also be another wise thing to do, right? Just to see if that helps your hot flashes. I'm not getting any responses yet, so I guess you guys are thinking like, what else, right? So this is besides doing things like black cohosh or dong quai or, you know, those estrogen rebalancing herbs. They can be helpful, but like I said, they don't address the root cause. So let me tell you what it is. I would really like you to try not to do coffee first thing in the morning, and especially doing coffee right before breakfast is like one of the no alcohol. That's a great one. I think Susan is saying that. Yeah, that's a really good one. You're right. Actually, that's the third thing I was going to talk about is reduction of alcohol intake. But the other thing that you can really try is, you know, in a perfect world, getting off coffee, right? But I know that it's not possible for everybody, and I'm probably going to lose half of the audience now when I say coffee. And yes, but coffee, one of the things that coffee does make your sugar levels, it can make your sugar levels go down pretty quickly. And, you know, again, coffee also impairs your liver function in a big way. And right, so somebody's saying, Angie's saying, how do you get without it? So what I'm saying is, if you find it really hard to get off coffee, and I'm gonna post also an article that I wrote about coffee, just so that you understand that how detrimental it can be to some people. I'm not saying for everybody, but there are some people, especially for example, if you are genetically predispositioned to be a slow coffee metabolizer, you know, it can be tough. Somebody's asking about tea. Kim is asking about tea. Tea contains caffeine. So, you know, I'm talking about getting off caffeine, reducing caffeine. And hey, you guys, if it's really hard for you, I understand. I'm saying do not drink caffeine first thing in the morning before breakfast, because you're basically giving yourself a sugar high. And after that, you're going to collapse. And that's when those hot flashes are going to start coming back. So what I wanted to show you is that, you know, if you need a little pick-me-up, there is a great alternative for matcha tea, M-A-T-C-H-A, matcha tea, which contains caffeine, but it does not, oh, itchy nose, sorry, but it does not give you the same kind of high and lows the way coffee does. So you can replace with matcha. That's a great, that is a caffeine source. But if you're looking for coffee taste and you're thinking like, is the taste that I'm really gonna be missing? I want to show you something that you can make, and this has been my go-to because I had to get off caffeine, unfortunately, altogether. I will talk about it actually in the coming weeks. Yes, I'm not gonna do a demo on matcha tea because I don't have matcha at home, because I don't keep caffeine at home. You know, I've got a real problem with dopamine. So I burn through dopamine really quickly, and in the coming weeks, you're gonna hear me talk about, when you make sure that you like the page and you're getting the updates from Hormones Balance. One of the things I'm gonna talk about is I've invited my friend who is a pharmacist and a genetist, and we're gonna be talking about genetic testing to see whether, to understand a lot of things about yourself. When I did my genetic testing and she helped me interpret it, it came out that I'm a really slow coffee detoxifier. I have a very addictive personality, which is completely true. And I'm a dopamine junkie. So I burn through dopamine really quickly, and that's why I'm looking for constant stimulation, you know, to get the next high, right? Not a great thing, because that's what in the past made me be addicted to cigarettes and coffee. So, you know, that's something that I want to work on. I'm not saying you have to get off coffee. I'm just saying you will probably feel better. So first thing, do not drink coffee before breakfast. If you're doing caffeine, do something like in the form of matcha and have it after food. And there's, if you go to my website, where I post the recipe for matcha latte, then you can basically make that in your NutriBullet or Vitamix or whatever you have at home blender. So in the meantime, what I want to show you is my other really favorite go-to thing, and that is, let me zoom in on the thing again so you can see what I'm doing. You know, I found that these mushroom coffees are really a great replacement in terms of taste. You know, in terms of taste to replace coffee. And these mushrooms are basically like lion's mane, chaga, and reishi or reishi, depends on who you ask. So I'm gonna make lion's mane just because I just really love it. And I'm using this brand called Four Stigmatic. They're really awesome. I'll put a link here. You can get it on Thrive Market as well, actually. Thrive Market sells it now too, and it's pretty inexpensive compared to other places. So it comes in these packages, in these sachets. You know, I like strong coffee or strong taste of things, and so what I typically do is I would put 2 of these in my packet, and it's really as simple as, so that's your, and by the way, these mushrooms are highly medicinal. I mean, you're talking about lion's mane, chaga, reishi, they are all immune supportive mushrooms, and especially now going into the time of, you know, of colds being, you know, so present, right? And everybody wants to boost their immune system. These mushrooms just are absolutely wonderful for that. So the other thing I'm gonna do is I've already got this open, so I'm just reusing. Basically, this is coconut milk, right? I'm using, like, I like using Native Forest because they're using a BPA free packaging. And so depends how creamy you like it. I'll typically put like a tablespoon and a half of coconut cream. And then, you know, if you like whatever sweetener, I'm using maple syrup here in this case. Just really a touch. I don't like too sweet of drinks. And then, you know, because it is plastic, let me just grab the my water. I've already pre-boiled it. It's warm, but it's not hot. It's like very, very warm. I don't like using hot in plastic, even if it's BPA free. If you ask me, that's total BS because there's some other chemicals in there that 10 years from now, the FDA is gonna come around realizing it. So that's that. And, you know, I'm using NutriBullet, which I love because it's just so simple. Let me go back to the overall scene. And for those of you who've used it, you know this is so simple, right? And that's it. That's basically your mushroom coffee. How much water, Kim is asking. Kim, you know, I'm totally, like, I like to wing my recipes. I don't know. I think it's like probably a cup and a half. You're gonna experiment for yourself and, you know, sort of see how you feel about it, because, like, you know, I like to use 2 sachets just because 1 is not enough for me. If you like strong coffee, you probably want to use 2. If you're used to more like the Americano style, which personally for me it's just too weak, it just feels very watered down, then you know, then this is something to try. Then you might want to use 2 sachets. So good. In fact, you know, if you don't like sweet coffee at all, then don't add the sweetener. And if you're doing a candida cleanse, for that matter, what you can do is, instead of using maple syrup, just use a couple of drops of stevia, 2-3 maximum drops of stevia, and that should do. Would you share the product? Yeah, so those are mushrooms. I will share that in the post, yes, after this call. And this just to show you, one of my favorites is chaga, right? So that's one of them. Actually, let me show you. I've got it right at the bottom here of my cabinet. I can show you what they look like in real, like not in a powdered form. Yeah, so let me show you what that looks like. So this one is, for example, from Star West, and you can get that on Amazon. This is what reishi looks like, right, in its natural form, dehydrated. For those of you who've been to Asia or you've been to a Chinese shop before, you know, Chinese shops are stocked with these mushrooms, and anybody who's feeling with having a compromised immune system would use reishi mushrooms as part of the formulation. So that's how they look like, you know. And if you are, it's gonna be part of my cookbook, but basically, you know, you can use something like this, one mushroom like this, in about 2 quarts of water, and you're gonna simmer it for 24 hours on like really simmer, right? And that's gonna extract all the nutrients out of reishi mushroom. And so that's another way of making coffee. It's just a longer way. When I have the time, if I feel like doing it, I'll do stuff like that. And the other one is chaga. So this is, I'm using this one from Mountain Rose Herbs. So this is, you can see. And chaga is another mushroom that is just wonderful for making a latte like what I just showed you, because it is quite a bitter mushroom. But then when you combine it with the coconut milk and whatever milk you want to use, like you might use tiger nut milk. I talked about tiger nuts a couple of episodes ago. So this one has already been kind of like cut to pieces, but otherwise it comes in these chunks. And you do the same thing. You basically, you know, you want to simmer it for 24 hours. What I often do is towards the end, like the last 20 minutes before finishing it, I would add things like cinnamon and, you know, cloves, and just to make it like into a real chai, like an Indian chai. And that's just a marvelous way of getting a drink into such a, you know, therapeutic drink into your life. If you have no time or patience for doing things like that, then, you know, this is where these guys become really, really helpful, right? And the brand is called Four Sigmatic. Like I said, I will post the link on that, and something you can have fun with, you know? So this is a wonderful replacement if you know, it's not going to give you the same kick as coffee does, obviously, but it tastes very similar to coffee. So a lot of times we drink coffee because we feel like the taste, like that's what we're going to be missing, right? And that's a really wonderful replacement. Let me see how we're doing for time. We've got another 5 more minutes. So my team has put together questions that some of you have posted, and I'm gonna just go through it right now. So let's see. If Marcy Tompkins is asking, can I use iodine supplements to help fibroids? Definitely, that could help. If low iodine deficiency is your problem. But a fibroids oftentimes are also due to estrogen dominance. So if you go on my website, Hormones Balance, hormones with an S, hormonesbalance.com, and enter estrogen dominance, you'll find a lot of articles on that. Is cabbage a good veggie? Kristen Shelton is asking. Absolutely. Let me switch over the microphone. Okay. All right. Can you guys hear me now? Let's see if you can hear me now. I'm using a change solver. Okay, says it's better. All right, cool. So Kristen Shelton is asking, is cabbage a good veggie? And the answer is yes. All the cruciferous vegetables are wonderful because they are, like I was mentioning earlier, they help you detoxify the liver. They are, number 2 is they are nutritionally much more dense than things like, for example, lettuce. And number 3 is that help you skew the estrogen, move the balance towards the protective estrogens and help us detoxify us from estrogens. So that's really awesome. Let's see. Will help, I sleep all the time, Cherry Denise Hina is saying. Well, you know, sleeping all the time can often be due to thyroid, And so I would definitely suggest is to check your thyroid. That's very common. Is like when women have thyroid problems, they just cannot get out of bed. They can't stop sleeping, and so that's one of the things. So Kristen Shelton is also asking, I've heard flaxseed was controversial, but so would it help? Yeah, so that's the question we often get about flaxseed. You know, I see about 1 in 10 women having the opposite reaction to flaxseed than positive. Flaxseed is actually wonderful. It's a source of fiber, both soluble and insoluble. It helps everything from reducing your cholesterol numbers to helps build up estrogen, helps to detoxify the estrogen we should be, you know, getting rid of. It helps your bowel movements because of the fiber. By the way, irregular bowel movements, huge, because whatever it doesn't exit comes back, goes back into your bloodstream. And salivary test for thyroid or hormone test. Yeah, so testing is kind of, so anything, thyroid is fine to do it through blood, but when it comes to the steroid hormones like you know, your cortisol levels, progesterone, estrogen, DHEA, testosterone, that you want to do either through saliva or through urine. Thyroid is perfectly fine to do through blood. Okay. Let's see. Marcy Davy says, what's the connection between Xanax and progesterone when taken together? And she also explained that she says, I'm always stressed, Marcy says. I take 2 milligrams of Xanax daily, down from 3. In the past, I was on compounded hormones. The progesterone caused me major problems. I thought I was having a breakdown. What is the issue of benzos and progesterone? So, yeah, so first of all, Marcy, I want to say, you know, when it comes to that is, first of all, anxiety is oftentimes caused by digestive issues. So, you know, I've worked with so many women in the past who, if you just Google digestive issues or gut health and anxiety, you'll be shocked how many resources that come out. So the first thing I really want to recommend to you is to rule out all the food sensitivity, especially gluten, dairy, eggs. I see people having huge reactions to those. You know, and number 2 is get off coffee and get your sugar levels stabilized. So that's the first thing to really look at rather than be depending on Xanax. I'm not aware of any contradictions between progesterone and benzos. You might want to talk to your doctor about that. The one thing I do see, however, with progesterone creams not working for women is when you have candida, right? And so that kind of goes back to the overall health issue again, and that is, you know, do you have candida? And so this is what I've seen before, and I've spoken to a number of practitioners who are integrative in nature, and that's the consensus, is that women who have candida oftentimes, did you get off coffee? I'll talk about it in a second. Who's this asking? Bella. So yeah, so this is really what I want to address for now. So let's talk about getting off coffee. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Coffee was the most difficult thing for me to get off. I stopped smoking by seeing a hypnotist in California, and it was 1 session, 4 hours, and I never looked back at having another cigarette again. With coffee, until actually recently, it's always been on and off. I'll get off coffee for 4 or 5 months, and then something difficult happens, and then I'm back on coffee, and there was this roller coaster. And so, to be honest with you, I ended up actually seeking a hypnotist help again. And so, you know, and so for me, it's not just coffee, it's caffeine altogether, because, you know, I know my body. And this is something that if you think I'm crazy to be asking you getting off coffee, is I'm not. I'm just saying is that there are some people who really, really do not tolerate coffee really well. I'll give you an example. This is my particular case. I'm just saying to everyone, figure out how does coffee impact you. And you would only know when you get off it for 3 to 4 days. It's an addictive substance. It's a drug. I mean, let's face it, okay? What is a drug? When you take it, you feel good. When you don't take it, you feel not so good. And when you get off it, you have a major breakdown, right? Take cocaine. You feel great when you take it. You feel not so good when you don't take it. And then when you get off it, right? Ooh, major problem. Same thing with coffee. You feel great when you have it, and then get off coffee for 3 days and see what happens. And I can tell you that most of people feel like they're having a stroke in their head. And to me, that is a drug, right? And so, I'm pretty strong about this because it has impacted my health in so many ways. And I feel like we live in a culture that makes drinking coffee like 5 times a day okay. Coffee makes us alert and improves this, improves that. There are very small medical benefits to it versus what it can do to you, especially if you are a slow coffee metabolizer. So I talk about myself. So since you guys asked what has made me get off it, everything from my body smells really bad, right? Because my liver is struggling with processing that caffeine. So then I basically start excreting things through my pores, and and I need to use a heavy duty deodorant when I'm drinking coffee because I smell. And I can tell you, when I get off coffee, gone. Like, my body doesn't smell. I don't even need to use a deodorant. And that's actually one of the indications of how well you're detoxifying, or what are you putting in your body that your body is detoxifying or not, that you have to smell, or that you smell and the feet smell, and under your arms. I sleep really poorly. I don't get dreams when I drink coffee. I realized that later is because coffee depletes me of vitamin B6, which is huge in a lot of different things, and that's why I don't dream. It makes me angry. It makes me mean to the people I love the most. My former partner was the subject of my rages, and it wasn't even rages per se, but it was just like this need for being mean. I cannot explain it, and when it was happening, I thought it was perfectly normal. Like, I had a reason to be mean to him, right? Total nonsense. So those are some of the things. Oh yeah, it gives me dry patches on my skin, almost like a psoriasis. It gives me bad breath. It makes the candida. I have a tendency to get candida. I tend to be quite moist on the inside, and it makes the candida worse. It acidifies my body. Those little pH strips that you can buy, and you pee on them and you look at your pH, like, are you 6.5, are you 7.2, like, you look at the colors and stuff, right? You've probably heard many times, people who are alkalized, right, on the inside do not get cancers, do not get a lot of chronic diseases, right? I can tell you, it was, when I drink coffee, I'm so acidic. I wake up alkalized, but then throughout the day, and I just have one espresso. That's all I was drinking, one espresso. I was acidic throughout the day. So those are my reasons. You're gonna figure out yours. Somebody was asking about headaches. They only last for 2-3 days, right? Isn't that a price to pay for overall good health? And, if you can't hack it, just take a Tylenol or something, right? Just get rid of it. I find it the more difficult is that I feel, every time I get off coffee, I feel like I'm getting a stroke, like my brain is not connecting very well up here. So, for some people, it's just a matter of switching to something like a substitute that tastes similar, and that does the job. For other people, it's about slowing things down, switching to maybe something like a matcha, and then going down, 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 and the sound is gone. Okay. I'm not sure what that is. Okay, other people saying they have sound. So I'm just about to wrap up, so I'm just gonna do it this way. So yeah, so I think the best thing for you to do is just to get off it for 3-4 days and just see how you feel. Everybody who does my detoxes, I have a detox called Fiery Detox, always says, I never thought I will feel so amazing even without coffee. So this is it. That's my little, that's my take on coffee. And anyway, but we were here talking about the hot flashes experiment. So I just wanna bring it to a wrap up, and I hope that you jump on board with trying the different breakfast, rearrange how you consume coffee, or maybe get off coffee for a while, and see how it feels. The more you're addicted to something like a coffee, for example, oftentimes there could be a sign that the bigger of a problem it is. That's just the way it is with food addictions. We've craved the food that oftentimes we actually having the biggest problem with, right? Or the food that causes the biggest problem for our body. So yeah, so that's that. And for those of you who are new here, I am on this call every Friday at 10 o'clock Pacific and 1 o'clock Eastern. And so have your questions ready. pop them out. It is hard for me to read them on the screen, I'm just realizing. So the best thing probably for you to do is to post them this week, and then I'm gonna collect them and then answer them for next week. All right, thanks everybody. I hope this was helpful for you. Just let me know who is joining the experiment, who is gonna be doing that. Just post that on our Facebook page, and I'm gonna check in with you next week. So remember, try it, do it, and then let's check in next week and just tell me how much has this helped you. All right, thanks everyone, and I will see you definitely next week.